Good morning, guys. How we doing today? Gonna continue with chapter 12. This is pretty much where the guys decide on what they're gonna do when they find out about Nikki. This part gets pretty intense and graphic, so I do apologize to those who might not like such things as torture and murder. But for those of you who do, I shall carry on. Nikki didn't look so bad once the blood had been cleansed away. All of her injuries were surface wounds and deep bruising. I sat smoking in a brooding silence, allowing her body to slowly wake up next to me. "Good morning," I said, passing the joint in her direction. "Hey, fuck, I thought I was dreaming. But I really am here with you. I can assure you that you are far from dreaming. What happened to you?" She sat up, taking in a deep hit, gently closing her eyes while exhaling. "I was at home waiting for Charlie, and it got to be late, so I just went to sleep. I couldn't tell you what time he decided to come crawling into bed, but I knew it was past midnight. He proceeded to take his shirt off and kicked off his shoes, immediately kissing my flesh as he pulled me closer. Completely awoken, I rolled over, feeling him undoing his jeans. I knew he wanted sex. The alcohol on his breath just made that apparent. But his gentle invitation had me aroused in return. So I sat on top of him, slowly grinding while he spoke to me. He told me he was ready to explore and take things further, like I had always wanted. I got even more excited as he flipped me over, shoving himself inside of me. It was slow at first, flip-flopping positions until he lost control and began pounding into me past the point of enjoyment. When I dug my nails into him, begging him to slow down, he smacked me across the face, telling me to shut the fuck up. Sex quickly turned into non-consensual, and no matter how loudly I screamed and cried, Charlie wouldn't stop. His constant thrusting had me burning inside and out. Nikki fought to hold back her tears. He then called for his friends, and they rushed in to take hold of my arms and legs, tying me down. I screamed for Charlie to help me, but he instead sat down on his computer chair. That fucking bastard lit a cigarette, a goddamn cigarette, and watched his friends rape and beat me. The amount of anger and revulsion that emerged had me sick beyond my own understanding. Charlie was a cruel, untamed dog that needed to be put down. My patience had worn with him, and I wanted to take Nikki over to Johnny and have her retell the story. After a morning shower, we gained the motivation to head over. I slightly opened my bedroom door, peering down the hallway, listening for movement. I heard my father clear his throat as the clink of his glass slammed against the wood of the end table. "Shit," I whispered, closing my door. Nikki was already standing next to the window by the time I turned around. She had a history of escaping with me like this. Her second-hand nature of a smile was all but reassuring, so I smirked in return. Just how I used to when we had to go through this shit. We shuttled my bike and headed over to Johnny's absentees. Everyone jumped up to greet us as we pulled in. "Jesus Christ, Mally, come on in and shut the door," Johnny said, grimacing at Nikki's appearance. "Nikki, tell them what you just told me. Everything." She went on explaining in gruesome detail what Charlie and his bloodthirsty heathens had done to her. Johnny stood abruptly, gripping the life out of his tool table, slamming it against the wall. Tools bounced and fell off the peg wall, unable to resist the massive force, causing us all to jump. "Johnny, this has gone on way too long, and way too far," Trent bit out. "What do you propose we do?" Johnny pulled out his pistol, running the barrel across his bottom lip. "We kill the bastard." Everyone stood in silence, staring at one another. That was it. All of this madness between us had reached a strong verdict. Charlie and his friends were in for a death sentence, and we held no remorse in seeing the deed through. We sat around the garage for hours plotting the perfect execution. The mishap truly brought out just how sick each one of us really was. We decided to start off by following him around, taking notes on his hangouts and documenting his daily schedule. We learned where he lived, who he affiliated with, and where he spent most of his time. We took delicate precaution to ensure that he had no idea what was coming. I called Tiffany and asked her for a hand in this. It might not have seemed like the most brilliant idea, but she was more than willing to help. Unfortunately, she was going to be our bait. But we had to play it smart in order to stay clear from possible retaliation. Back at Johnny's, the house was full in just an eerie silence. I dressed in black, down to my gloves. My brothers followed suit. We all put on unique handmade gas masks fabricated from old military chem gear. Geared up with our weapons of choice, we took a moment to appreciate our rather sophisticated attire for the evening. I was ready for the kill. I was ready for a long, drawn-out, torturous ending, and I was more than accepting of the future enjoyment. "You boys ready to roll out?" Trent asked. All in agreement, we advanced to loading inside Johnny's car. Trent and I snorted an Adderall along the way just to stay awake and keep focused. We rolled up with our headlights off, parking across the street from a small pool hall where Charlie hung out. We waited for Tiffany to give us a signal over our walkie-talkie. "There they are," Colton pointed towards the opening doors. "All right, boys, get ready to cut the fucker to pieces," Johnny growled. Trent had parked his truck in the lot earlier, so we had a second vehicle to grab Dean and Raymond. He quietly got out of the car, running over to get inside of his truck. He and Colton stayed behind to collect the rest of our bounty while we led the way. Tiffany looked over in our direction, nodding as Charlie pulled her in tightly to his side. Once they began driving, we followed suit. Tiffany held down the talk button while they spoke so we could hear their entire conversation. "So, where do you want to go?" Charlie asked. "I have a little spot I like to go where no one else knows." "Oh, is that so? Well, show me the way, baby." "Fucking idiot," I chuckled. We followed them down a dark road that led directly to the old train station. The same one the guys and I like to hang out and drink while we tag boxcars. "You aren't taking me to kill me, are you?" he joked. Tiffany's nervous laughter crackled through the speaker. Reaching our destination, we parked a few yards away to avoid notice. Tiffany got out, leading Charlie into the run-down building. "Okay, let's go. Make sure you have everything." Johnny gave a tight jerk to the rope that clung perfectly around his shoulder. My heart began racing with each nearing step I made. I left my worries and inhibition behind, letting the inner wolf unleash beneath the full moon sky. Tiffany flicked on the lighting we had set up days before while preparing for this night. We stood panting underneath our masks, watching her lead Charlie to a group of chairs that centered the room. I felt salt hit my tongue as sweat beaded up on my forehead, rolling down inside my mouth. Tiffany shoved Charlie down into a chair, straddling him with a long kiss. I could see Trenton in the shadow distance, walking up behind them with a shovel. Charlie's mouth moved to Tiffany's breast as she spotted Trent, releasing a faint moan. Johnny gave a nod for Trent to proceed, so he raised the shovel over Charlie's head, hitting him as if he were standing on home plate. Charlie slumped over in the chair, and Johnny and I ran up to tie him. "Where the fuck are the other two?" "In my truck. I will go help Colton bring them in." Jacoby and I raced outside to assist in retrieving our victims. These guys were knocked out cold, and their dead weight felt impossible to lift. "How'd you capture them?" "The bartender's an old friend of the family and did me a favor by spiking their drinks. As soon as they came stumbling out, we lured them to the truck, knocked them both the fuck out, and loaded them up before anyone noticed their absence. Once we dragged their asses into the building, we slammed each one down into a chair while Tiffany balanced in the metal. "Did you really think I was just gonna let you have all the fun?" We all turned simultaneously to see Nikki holding a pistol, puffing on a cigarette. "How did you find us?" "Let's be real. I know how your little mind works, Mally. You're internally twisted and depraved, as we all are. We all have one particular thing in common that we seek, and that's the death of Charlie fucking Bradford." She exhaled while cocking the gun. "Well, we aren't just gonna shoot them." "No, of course not. That would be too damn easy." Nikki shot off a round into the air. The sound was enough to awaken them, instantly setting off panic as their sweat glands secreted fear. "Hey, you mad fuck. It's nice to see you still breathing, you pathetic piece of shit," Nikki said while approaching Charlie. "What the fuck are you trying to do, you psychotic bitch?" Nikki's baffled reaction set her jaw to drop. She cocked the gun back once more before pistol whipping him. "No, I do believe you're the bitch in this instance. Restricted from controlling your own movements, are you not? I think I like seeing you falter against my will, just sitting there all vulnerable and defenseless." She leaned forward, closing in on his face. "Fuck you." She pulled the trigger, sending a bullet through his right leg. Charlie screamed in agony, begging for us to stop. Mouse. This is all you, boss. Please do what you feel is necessary, Johnny smiled. Everyone stood by watching every move I made. The darkness in me rose as my grip tightened against the axe I bared in my hands. I wanted to devour his uncompassionate, self-engrossed pride, shoving the remains down his throat until he choked. Welcome, Charlie. So glad that you can make it. I clubbed him in the side of the head. I motioned for Colton to hand over the syringe full of hydrochloric acid. I held it into the light and giving it a slight flick to pop any existing air bubbles. I wanted this to be nice, slow, and exceptionally painful. Charlie was still struggling to see after the blow he had just endured to the skull. I knelt down before him, staring into the eyes of Hades himself. You know, things didn't have to come to this. It is quite the shame that you would rather make a rash decision in which landed you in this chair. Just praying for my mercy. I don't need your fucking mercy, bitch, Charlie replied, spitting blood into my face. I stood up, pulling a black bandana from my back pocket to wipe it off. Colton and Jacoby both gave him a vigorous smack for the lack of respect. And there you go, making shit harder. You always have to make things worse, don't you, Charlie? Johnny came running up with his pocket knife, slamming it into Charlie's legs. I know it was you who killed my fucking dog, you son of a bitch. I watched him jerk around rapidly, trying to break out of the rope that kept him bound before me while he screamed in pain. I yanked his chair around, forcing him to watch his friends die. Colton turned the rotator on that had a large chain attached. I looped the metal hook onto the knot that held Raymond's hands together. He soon ascended into the air. Getting the urge of aggression, I snatched Raymond by the face, pulling him towards me. Look at that little prick, Raymond. You owe him a big thank you for bringing you here. A matter of fact, I think we all owe him a big thank you. I laughed sardonically. Not wanting to waste any more time, I injected the needle right into Raymond's jugular. His screaming echoed throughout the entire building. Pulling it out slowly, we all stood by watching Raymond convulse while his insides deteriorated. The chemical impact eventually caused Raymond to foam at the mouth from aspirated. Hey, no one told you to puke all over the goddamn floor, Johnny said, taking a baseball bat to Raymond's ribcage. Hearing them crack made everyone's excitement rise. Dean cried for us to stop, cringing from the crushing of his friend's ribcage while gagging ferociously. Now he's gonna clean up this fucking mess, Charlie, I think you're the perfect candidate. I clutched my fingers around the back of his neck, shoving him over. He landed face first in the puddle of bloody mess of Raymond's anatomy. Charlie lied there, whimpering like a pathetic puppy, longing for his mother. How does it feel, Charlie? To be fucking weak. To be overpowered, outnumbered, and incompetent. I bet it feels beyond fucking amazing. I jabbed the heel of my shoe into his face. Pick his ass up. Trent and Johnny sat back and then faced him towards us. Tossing Johnny the empty syringe, he stood momentarily in thought, while tapping it against his chin. Mentally reaching a decision, we watched him casually stick it right through Raymond's left eye. He just hung in the air, completely lifeless. This shit was very real, and it was actually happening. And not in the way that, when you just sit there and talk about it, and then feel bad for even bringing it up, but in a very physical aspect, to where I could actually describe how their warm, thin blood fell on my hands. I pulled out some Molly, quickly grinded it between my teeth as my mouth numbed. My internal fidelity embroidered with Nikki's name had me acting this way. I felt like I lost my soul, that I was just an empty vessel lacking proper values and morals. I had a pernicious heart, pure of no lesser than evil than the demon himself. Charlie's persistent narcissism cradled him in a delusional safe haven full of laughter. What in the fuck is so funny? Colton sneered. Charlie lifted his head, still smiling, as big as his mouth would let him. What's funny is you all think you could possibly get away with this. People will look for me, and they will never stop. When they do find my corpse lying about in some old abandoned train station, they will come looking for you. He gave a sinister smile. That may be true, but I'll find great comfort against the hard plastic while my hands are circulation. The numbness will be a tiny reminder of how I'm still alive, and you are gone from this world. I will find peace at night, when I rest my head and go to sleep, dreaming ever so easy about how I took your fucking life. I flicked open my pocket knife, sharp to the touch. One slide against this blade, and you were instantly bleeding. Nikki, catch, I said, tossing the knife. I reached inside my vest, pulling out a pair of pruning shears. Walking over to Charlie, I jerked back the fingers on his left hand. This is for every wrong move you placed upon Nikki, you sick bastard. I laid his index finger in between the shear blades. Please, no. Please don't fucking do this. I'm sorry, okay? Charlie wailed. Oh, did you hear that, guys? Charlie says he's fucking sorry. What a shame that nobody gives a fuck. I clamped the handle down tightly. The finger was completely severed, lying on the floor below. His hand bled profusely as he screamed. I couldn't take the loud noise much longer. Shut up. Shut up. Shut the fuck up, I yelled. I cut off every single one of his fingers, letting him bleed all over the place. After 20 minutes of consecutive crying, Charlie went silent, drooling blood-mixed saliva onto his shirt. Nikki's anxiousness had her spontaneously charged Charlie with a pocket knife, undoing his jeans, and pulling out his testicles like an aggressive savage. I could see the fear developing in his eyes as sweat trickled down his temples. Baby, come on, don't do this. You know you love me, right? You're not going to let these hell-raising mad fucks torture me to death, are you? Shut up, Nikki said slowly. Yes, that is exactly what I'm going to do. She was fighting to hold back her tears. You let them rape me while you stood by just watching them beat me, ignoring my call for help, just screaming your name over and over while they penetrated me until I fucking bled. And what did you do, Charlie? Nothing, he replied short of breath. Exactly. You did nothing, she yelled, taking a knife to his pelvis, displaying a public castration. It hurt so bad just to watch that I had to look off for a moment, gently cupping my own, just to ensure that they were still intact. His horrifying, blood-curdling screams and cries aggravated the final nerve that clung to the last ounce of my sanity. It's time to put this fucking dog down, I bit out. Marching over to where he sat, I took the knife from Nikki and tilted Charlie's head back, pressing the blade into his throat. I gently closed my eyes. I took a deep breath, feeling the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Everything slowed around me as I opened my eyes, and all I could think of was how badly he hurt me and the things that he did to Nikki. I just wanted to put him out of my misery so he couldn't hurt me anymore. But suddenly, the sky popped into my head. Not in the way of a guardian angel, and not in the form of a greater power trying to persuade me into making the right decision, but a feeling of comfort letting me know everything would be okay afterwards. I took a moment making eye contact with everyone in the room, reading their expressions and how they might have been feeling about the madness. Lord, though I may be ill-minded and destructive, I pray that one day you can forgive me. I pressed the blade in further, hearing Charlie take in his final breath. I slid the knife from ear to ear, and within milliseconds Charlie bled out. Each beat his heart gave. Blood gently pumped out in a steady flow from the incision across his neck. I held the knife before me, looking over at Dean, bawling his eyes out, who seemingly pissed and vomited all over himself. Shut the fuck up. I ran over to him. What sympathy do I owe you? None. You felt no mercy, no grievance, no peeved and apologetic. This while you beat my ass in the parking lot, leaving me for dead. Fuck you. You could have made a goddamn difference, but you're not different. You're just like every soulless abomination that walks the earth in silence because you're too afraid to grab your balls and be a fucking man. Johnny, finish this. With pleasure, boss. He cocked his pistol, pressing the barrel against Dean's forehead. Before Johnny could pull the trigger, a cell phone started ringing. We all checked ours frantically, trying to cease the noise. And we'll continue on another one.